The accompanying military doctor Du Wanwan was overworked, and when she opened her eyes, she became a disaster star that everyone shouted for. She also faced famine and was expelled from the village. What the hell? Is she possessed by the Decay God? Want to kill her? Why don't we kill you first? Exile the village. Okay. She can't bear it. Disaster star. Is it okay for the original owner to be a lucky star? She understands animal language, has great strength, and with space, who can be as powerful as her on the escape route. This is nothing, she even saved an awesome man. Settling down effortlessly, the village chief begged for help. Sorry. The Du family has been expelled from the family, we are outsiders. Du Wanwan. Man. What are you laughing at? Did I say it wrong? Yi Tingxiao. No, madam is very right. I was wrong, and I shouldn't laugh at this time. Keywords of the novel. After fleeing the famine, the Empress Dowager of the Disaster Star empties the enemy's warehouse without a pop-up window. After fleeing the famine, the Empress Dowager of the Disaster Star empties the enemy's warehouse. Download the full text. After fleeing the famine, the Empress Dowager of the Disaster Star empties the enemy's warehouse. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The Disaster Star of Wearing Adult People and Shouting and Fighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Disaster Star of Wearing Adult People and Shouting and Fighting, kill her, this disaster star cannot stay. Yes, we can't keep it. We have to deal with it today, otherwise we'll all have to die in her hands. Disaster Star. Beat it to death. Who is the Disaster Star? Who are you going to kill? Du Wanwan was completely unconscious, feeling a lot of noise in her ears. I tried to open my eyes and found a circle of people standing in front of me. A circle of ancient people, both men and women, dressed in shorts, looked at her fiercely. A woman's sharp cry echoed above her head. No, my Wanwan is not a disaster star, and your hearts are too cruel. She's only 17 years old, why is she a disaster star? Why should she be killed? Du Wanwan glanced at the woman's profile, who was in her 30s. Her skin was waxy yellow, her bones were thin, and her hair was withered and yellow, with a hint of white hair. It should be caused by overwork on weekdays and insufficient food all year round. Why isn't it a disaster star? Your family's Wanwan is a disaster star, killing her wouldn't be too much. On the day of her birth, there was a flash flood, a plague outbreak on her first birthday, and on her second birthday, her father went into the mountain to chop firewood and broke his leg, becoming a cripple. On my 5th birthday, a wildfire broke out, on my 8th birthday, there was hail, and on my 12th birthday, a mudslide buried half of the village. On my 15th birthday, a pack of wolves descended the mountain, and more than 10 strong men died in the village. In short, she is widely recognized as a disaster star. Today is her 17th birthday, and suddenly the county notified her to flee. It was said that the border guards had suffered a defeat, and the northern troops attacked. She's not a disaster star. What is she? Almost every birthday brings disaster, and she's a disaster star who must be killed. Yes, kill her. If she doesn't die, the whole village has no way out. Du Wanwan, lying on the ground, really wanted to curse her mother. Unfortunately, she was so miserable because she was on a mission to rescue her companions. She underwent surgery for 3 consecutive days and nights without closing her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she arrived here, becoming a disaster star that everyone was shouting and killing. She is an accompanying military doctor and comes from a special forces background. She entered the base for training at the age of 5 and graduated at the age of 18. She travels with special mission personnel at any time to save their lives. The ignorant ancients were so foolish that they blamed all natural disasters on a 17-year-old girl and really killed her to death. The original owner was really cowardly. If someone wanted to hit her, they would just stand there foolishly and give her a beating. Wouldn't they run away? What is the use of having long feet? Decoration. When he was roast, his head hurt, and a memory that did not belong to her rushed in, recording the short life of the original owner. She is not actually a disaster, she is naturally timid because she can understand animal language and often talks to chickens, ducks, geese, pigs, dogs, and cows alone. The villagers think her behavior is abnormal. Adding to the fact that there was a flash flood at birth, the name of the disaster star became louder and louder as rumors spread. She was born with divine power, but she didn't dare to show it casually, afraid that people would dislike her even more if they knew. At the age of 17, no one came to propose marriage, and her family had long disliked her. Fortunately, her parents favored her and left her a place to live. "You're not human, you're too cruel." Yao Meixian, the woman guarding her, cursed and cried at the villagers, "Why is my Wanwan a disaster star? With flash floods and wildfires, how can we blame her for the northern invaders? You're animals, unreasonable." 3 young people stood beside Du Wanwan, and through the memory of the original owner, they knew that these were her 3 younger brothers. Her lame father squatted behind her, wiping away tears. After taking a few breaths, Du Wanwan slowly sat up and stunned Yao Meixian. She quickly approached and hugged her, saying, "Wanwan. Have you woken up? Have you finally woken up? That's great." Du Wanwan's father, Du Jiang, also wept with joy and said, "Good. Good. God bless me, I finally woke up." The 3 younger brothers beside her also turned around happily to look at her, although they remained silent, the joy in their eyes could not deceive anyone. As soon as the villagers saw her wake up, they became angry again. Someone held a stone and threw it at her, cursing and throwing it at her. "Kill the disaster star, kill her. Yes, kill her." Yao Meixian and Du Jiang quickly protected their daughter with their bodies to prevent stones from hitting her. Du Wanwan's 3 younger brothers also protected her to the death, preferring a stone to fall on themselves before protecting her elder sister. "My mother said that my elder sister is the lucky star of their family. Without my elder sister, there would be no one for them, and we must take good care of them." As more and more people smashed the stones, Du Wanwan suddenly stood up and pulled her parents and younger brother behind her. She raised her hand to grab the attacking stones and counterattacked the person who hit her. She doesn't act lightly, she must make them feel pain and danger before they can stop. Otherwise, she would be unable to defeat the 4 punches with both hands, and this melee situation should not last too long. She needs to fight quickly and make a quick decision. The original owner had great strength, coupled with her fast speed and extremely high accuracy. The stone reflected back and knocked off several front teeth of the person who hit her, covering her mouth and wailing. 1 arm was hit, 1 thigh was hit, 1 back was hit, and 1 chest was hit. Anyone who threw stones at her was hit back with lightning-fast techniques, causing them to lie on the ground and scream in pain. Among the crowd, there were 3 tall, dark-skinned people who were constantly watching her every move, their eyes showing shock. "Master. This girl is extraordinary, her way of hitting people is too powerful. The power is also very precise. 1 more point can cause disability and death, while 1 less point cannot have a deterrent effect." The man, known as the Master, looked at Du Wanwan and the mournful person on the ground with fiery eyes, but did not speak. He certainly saw her uniqueness, but he really wanted to see how she would handle this messy scene next. "Du Wanwan. You're so brave. A disaster star didn't die and even injured our villagers. What do you want to do?" The speaker was the village chief of Dujia village, who was in his 50s and not tall. He believed he had attended a private school for several years and always felt superior to the people of Dujia village. "I want to live, is that wrong? Du Wanwan's cold and stern eyes were devoid of any warmth, slowly sweeping through the crowd before finally stopping at the village chief, causing everyone in the Du family village to shudder with fear. She looks very scary today, completely different from usual. That gaze can freeze a person's blood, making their heart tremble and their sweat pores stand up. Of course, you are a disaster star and have no right to live. The village chief was also afraid of Du Wanwan's gaze, so he bravely pulled his neck and roared. Are you the Prince of Yen? With his gaze fixed on the village chief, a cold and piercing aura crazily leaked out, instantly enveloping him. The village chief felt the cold air emanating from his coccyx, reaching directly to the heavenly Lingai. It's too scary. This kind of Du Wanwan is very scary, even the village chief is almost unable to suppress her. Is this still the disaster star who used to be submissive, silent all day, and wanted to hide from people? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Taking Back Registered Residence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Taking Back Registered Residence. Although I am not the Prince of Yen, you are a real disaster star. The village chief shouted sternly and inwardly, have you forgotten? Last year, the day before your birthday, your grandparents suddenly fell ill, and they disappeared the day after your birthday, and at the same time. Do you dare to say it's not your disaster star? If I were a disaster star, I would be the first to kill you first. Du Wanwan clenched her hands on both sides of her body, with a posture of wanting to hit someone if she didn't agree. As the head of a village, I don't want to prepare for the villagers' evacuation, but rather have a leisurely demeanor to slander people. The village chief was so angry at her words that he jumped 3 feet high and said, why is it slander? You are a disaster star, recognized by the whole village as a disaster star. Who caused the famine escape in Dujia village? It was me, a disaster star. Joke. Du Wanwan's tone remained cold, as if she wanted to freeze people into popsicles. The northern Juzi attack was also caused by me, a disaster star. Ignorance. The village chief couldn't say anything about her, so he pointed at Du Jiang and said, Du Jiang. Do you still want to escape with us? If so, we'll deal with your disaster star. Otherwise. What do you want? Du Wanwan interrupted the village chief's words and asked coldly. Shaking his neck, the village chief suppressed his fear and replied, otherwise, we will be expelled from our Du family village. You are not allowed to follow us. Du Jiang's younger brothers Du He, Du Hai, and Du Tao immediately jumped out. Du He said, village chief. If you want to drive out my elder brother's family, we 3 brothers cannot leave the village. Du Hai nodded and said, yes, just expel my big brother's family. We can't be expelled. Du Tao stated, the disaster star came from my elder brother's house and has nothing to do with us. Du Jiang looked at his 3 younger brothers angrily and said, you. What's wrong with us? It's understandable for us to do this, said Mei, the wife of Du He, with a disdainful expression on her face. Du Hai's mother-in-law, Chen Shi, continued, on the way to escape, who dares to walk alone with their family? It's not worth it. Du Tao's mother-in-law Xiao Shi glared at Du Wanwan and said, big brother. If you agree to kill this disaster star, we'll take you with us. Yao Meixian pooed Xiao Shi and said, Xiao Shi. You dead woman, what right do you have to decide whether we will follow you or not? Shouldn't we just flee? What if we don't know how to escape ourselves? Xianggong. Take our family's registered residence, and if you don't follow, you won't follow. If you leave the village, you won't believe we can escape. If you want registered residence, you can take 10 liang silver. Xiao Shi looked at Du Jiang and was elated, brother. Don't say I bullied you, registered residence is in my hands. If you don't give the silver, don't try to take it away. Why is registered residence in Xiao's hands? It was not Du Jiang's carelessness. After his parents died, they had not separated. 2 days ago, they had just separated. Before they could think of taking registered residence, they said they wanted to escape from famine. My parents' belongings were collected and organized by Xiao. Usually, we eat in the same pot, but we don't think so much about it. At this point, I had to use it before I remembered, but it happened to be held by Xiao. 10 taels of silver is not a small amount. Ordinary people need to work for at least 2 or 3 years to save it. Xiao opened his mouth and demanded 10 taels, clearly indicating that the lion was speaking loudly. Wanwan looked at her coldly, walked over, and asked coldly, "Do you really want 10 taels of silver? A penny is not a big deal." "Yes." Xiao laughed arrogantly, 10 taels of silver, not a penny can be missing. "What if I don't give it? What do you plan to do?" Wanwan's face remained expressionless, her gaze sharp, and she reached out to grab Xiao's neck, gradually tightening it. The villagers were all stunned when they saw it, but not a single one reacted. The 3 invisible people on the side gathered together and murmured. "This girl's strength is not weak in her hands. It seems she has lifted everyone up, master. She can't be born with divine power, can she?" Tingxiao, known as the master, shouted softly, "Shut up." The person dared not speak, covered his mouth, and the person next to him glared at him, gloating and throwing out 2 words. "You deserve it." No matter what the expression of the people in Dujia village was, Wanwan's hand was always pinching Qiu's neck. Jiang and Yao Meixian were scared and shouted to her to stop, which she had never heard of before. "Ask the Qiu family. Do you want to give or not give registered residence? Don't expect your man-son to save you. On the way to escape from famine, he died of hunger, thirst, fatigue, and countless bandits killed him. If you are missing, they will just save some food. Don't expect the officers and soldiers to come and save you, everyone has fled, who is still in charge of who? The government no longer exists, whoever has a hard fist is their head. It's normal for you to make me unhappy and I'll kill you, just like you used to say you wanted to kill me." The village chief rolled his eyes at Xiao and quickly called out to Jiang, "You make her let go quickly. She is disobedient and unfilial, and will be punished by heaven." The other villagers saw Wanwan's fierce expression, as if a demon had crawled up from hell, and were too scared to speak. "I was thinking about whether I had hit her with a stone before. If I did, what would I do if she remembered? Let's run home and hide." Upon this thought, many people rubbed their feet with oil and ran away, afraid to stay by the demon's side, afraid of being choked to death. Xiao really didn't wait for the man and his son to save her. He was afraid and shook his head quickly to show that he was willing to give her registered residence. Wanwan casually released her, and she covered her fiery throat with a cough 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 cough, falling to the ground. Wanwan's gaze wrapped around the village chief, like a cold and venomous snake, causing him to unconsciously shrink his neck in fear. "Rebellious and unfilial. Will I be punished by heaven? Will I be afraid? You will all kill me and force my family to death. I will still care about this. Take out the genealogy and cross out my father's branch. From now on, our family has no relationship with anyone in the village." Tingxiao felt that Wanwan's words were resounding and imposing, and she didn't seem like an ignorant mountain girl at all. Xiao, who had narrowly escaped death, did not dare to be a demon anymore, so she hurriedly sent her son back to take the registered residence of Jiang's family and handed it to her. "This girl is too terrifying. The process from birth to death is very frightening, and from death to life is precious. She is not willing to give up." The village chief sent someone to collect the genealogy, cross out the name of the Dujiang branch, and tell the villagers that the Dujiang family will no longer be members of the Dujia village in the future. Wanwan took the registered residence and looked at it, then looked at the name crossed out from the genealogy. She thought it was right and very satisfied. "From now on, our family has nothing to do with the villagers, and we will not go with you to escape famine." Take your villagers first, and in 3 days, I will set off with my parents and brothers. Even if you encounter them, don't come up and build relationships. The village chief stared at Wanwan and said, you'd better keep your promises. Whoever can't do it is a turtle bastard, said Wanwan without showing any weakness. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Space Yaya. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Space Yaya. The village chief snorted coldly and walked away holding the genealogy. How could this disaster star suddenly become so terrifying? The villagers are almost running out of people, leaving him as the village chief to face this disaster star. On the surface, he appears calm and composed, but in reality, he is afraid to death in his heart. The disaster star is too terrifying. If you take action, it will kill you. I don't know where she came from, but when I saw her, her legs and stomach were trembling. After everyone left, Wanwan turned around to look at the night owl and walked up to him. I looked at him up and down, then took a quick sniff and said calmly, the low fever doesn't subside, and the wound is decaying. You're lucky to have met me. Otherwise, even if you don't die, you'll have to lose half of your life. If you want to treat it, the diagnosis fee is 100 taels, and there is only a 3-day chance to consider it. If it expires, it won't wait. Tingxiao and his 2 guards were stunned. Did they disguise themselves so inconspicuously? I have been in this village for over half a month now, and no one has ever doubted them. Why did this girl know that their master was injured? Do you still know that he has been troubled by low fever? It's unbelievable. Wanwan knew that the person in front of her might not believe her, nor did she expect him to believe her. After speaking, she turned around and left. At first glance, the original owner's parents were honest people, but suddenly they were expelled from the family. I can't help but feel sad in their hearts. For her, everyone in the family suffered. Du Jiang limped behind. Yao Meixian returned home, sitting in a thatched cottage in a daze. The 3 sons each sorted their things and prepared to flee. Yao Meixian went to the stove to cook, but there wasn't much good food, so she added some brown rice to the old pumpkin. Although it is now the season of abundant autumn harvest and all the grain in the fields has been harvested, if we want to escape famine, we don't know what we will encounter on the way. We need to save some food. Wanwan didn't enter the room when she returned, standing at the door, staring blankly at the room. I can't figure out why I travel back to ancient times. When she came, did her Yaya come? Yaya is a space that she has carried with her since birth in her previous life. She is an orphan. I don't know who her parents are. The people in the orphanage said they found her with her birth date and name on her body, which should have been deliberately discarded by someone. At the age of 5, she was specially recruited into the military and accidentally opened up a space with nothing inside. Later, she learned to hoard and named the space Yaya. She hoarded a lot of medicine and food, as well as weapons in the space. She was an accompanying doctor who not only had to rescue the wounded, but also sometimes joined the battle. I lived for 30.7 years in my past life, completing no less than 100 tasks of all sizes. Fortunately, I had Yaya always with me, otherwise she would have died long ago. In the end, he didn't sacrifice himself in the mission, but died suddenly due to overwork. He came here and suddenly became 20 years younger. Yaya. Are you there? I'm so hungry. Give me a bun. Wanwan's thoughts fell and she had an extra bun in her hand. She was so happy that she almost jumped up and said, Yaya. Is it really you? Where are you? I want to go in. Although space does not speak and has no substance, there is life in her subconscious. No matter what she wants, Yaya will provide it to her, just like the bun in her hand at the moment. As soon as her thoughts stopped, Wanwan found herself standing in a familiar space and said, Yaya. You really came with me, that's great. We're together again. No, there is no land or creek in the space, let alone high mountains shrouded in clouds and mist. How come there are more of these things here? Yaya. Have you grown up yet? Wanwan walked to the small stream flowing around the foot of the mountain and carefully observed that the stream was running happily towards the land at the foot of the mountain. The land was black and shiny, as if very fertile. There was a cliff on the edge of the land and a platform more than 3 meters above the ground. Climbing up, I found a small pool in the middle of the platform, with a clear pool of water inside, which looked tempting. She happened to be thirsty. Seeing her dirty hands, she quickly went to the stream to clean them up, climbed onto the platform, picked up a handful of water, and drank it into her mouth. Suddenly, a sweet sensation slid down my throat and into my stomach, creating a warm and exhilarating sensation. I felt my limbs and every pore felt comfortable. Ling Quan. I picked up another handful of water and drank it, feeling exhausted all over. Even the injury on the back of my head didn't hurt much anymore. It's really Ling Quan, she's confirmed. Wow. Yaya. You're so kind, you've created a spiritual spring for me. With you by my side, I'm not afraid to go anywhere. Wanwan's mind wandered out of space and still stood at the doorstep, ecstatic in her heart, but her face did not show it. Yao Meixian saw her daughter come in and quickly brought her a bowl of pumpkin rice. Wanwan looked at it and took a few bites before pleading that she had no appetite and went to lie down inside. Should she tell her family about the space? On the escape route, there will definitely be many problems. What does she mean? Still not saying it. Let's make a decision based on the situation, so as not to cause trouble. When everyone in the village has left, she will go to treat the man. If he goes out, he must have money and cannot be empty-handed. Besides, she is a doctor and cannot be saved in the face of death. It can be seen that the man is not a bad person, full of righteousness, just like her former colleagues. Guess well, he should be a soldier. I don't know why he hid in the village, probably because he was injured and couldn't leave. The people of Dujia village tossed around all night and left early the next morning, leaving no one left. Tingxiao and his subordinates don't want to leave, they can't leave. They still have a mission to deal with. They came here to recuperate to avoid the ears and eyes of the northern Yaozi. I didn't expect their speed to be so fast that they were about to attack. The woman said she could save him, I don't know if it's true or false. Anyway, he had to give it a try, but his abdomen was scratched. The blade is very long, constantly decaying and bleeding. If it weren't for his martial arts skills, he might have died long ago. As soon as the villagers left, Tingxiao let her hand down to find Wanwan. She didn't refuse and followed over. Her family has already been assigned a task by her to organize the things they need to take away. Jiang and his 3 sons are repairing a cart, which can be used to carry food and other items. Taking advantage of their busy schedule, Wanwan followed the people who were looking for her out. No one noticed and thought she was going out to daydream like usual, talking to herself. Seeing Tingxiao smeared with mud on his face, and then looking at his 2 subordinates, Wanwan couldn't help but shake her head and say, your disguise can only deceive simple and ignorant villagers. Experienced people usually reveal their secrets at a glance. Tingxiao's subordinate Yi was unwilling to say, what do you say? Wanwan also said politely, first of all, your aura is too imposing, not what villagers should have. Next is your hands. People who hold weapons year-round are most likely to develop calluses in their tiger mouths. The villagers who farm their land are basically covered in calluses. Also, your grandfather's face is covered with skin, but his hands are not, and his neck is not completely covered. The color difference is too much, it's clear at a glance. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Treatment of Night Court Xiao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Treatment of Night Court Xiao. Night by night, as expected, the master's face was dark, but the skin on his hands was white, making it easy to see the flaws. Yi looked at it silently, but deep down he admired Du Wanwan's observational ability. This girl doll gives him a strange feeling, not like she grew up in a wild village and knows a lot of things. She has a delicate mind, is good at observation, and is skilled in medicine. Is she really a village girl? Why doesn't it look like it? Tingxiao glanced at Du Wanwan and couldn't tell her emotions on her cold face. Do you really know how to treat a disease? Yes. Du Wanwan nodded confidently. I couldn't help roast that if you didn't escape from famine and have no money, who would be willing to hurt you? What if I get into any trouble? Let's get started. Tingxiao sat down and reached out her hand to pass it to Du Wanwan. She didn't hesitate to extend 2 fingers and began to feel her pulse. She has never learned Chinese medicine. She also knows about acupuncture and moxibustion, medicine bath, poison making and detoxification. But she is used to Western medicine, and will be a little uncomfortable for a while. She is a general practitioner, from heart surgery to catching a cold, she can see everything, even gynecological diseases, childbirth, and cesarean section. After a moment, she said, your wound has decayed and inflamed. If left untreated, you will die from the inflammation. Treatment must be done according to my requirements. If left untreated, let's pretend we haven't seen each other before. Seeing the woman speak so decisively, Tingxiao was taken aback for a moment. To be honest, most of the women he has met are gentle and delicate and weak, rarely heard to speak so directly and in a tone that is not negotiable. What requirements? He asked. I'll knock you unconscious and have your guards leave the house to guard outside. Without my orders, you can't come in and disturb me. Yi objected, this doesn't work. How can our master be alone with you? What if you have ulterior motives? Yi remained silent and stared at Du Wanwan, wanting to hear what she could say. This woman is a disaster star. At the age of 17, no one has come to her house to propose marriage, so it is not impossible for her to have an affair with their crown prince. Cut it. A half-dead man, the smell of decay on his body can suffocate people. Do you think I'm so greedy? If I earn money and go outside, I'll lack a pretty little brother. Du Wanwan's words left her mouth wide open for half a day. Oh my goodness. This girl is too daring to say that their crown prince has been despised by a disaster star. Tingxiao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Even if there was pot dust on her face, Du Wanwan could feel it. She just doesn't think there's anything wrong, she's telling the truth. A man of unknown origin, she doesn't dare to provoke him casually. If it weren't for fleeing from famine and avoiding military disaster, having no money in her pocket, and feeling anxious, she wouldn't have wasted her energy performing any suturing surgery on him. It's not a big deal to ask for anything in the wild mountains and ridges. Her family has to take out anesthesia, stitches, and thread. If you don't knock him unconscious, if you want him to see, you have to expose your secret. Hurry up and make a decision. I have no obligation to spend time with you. If I don't do it today, I won't talk tomorrow. Du Wanwan has always been a person with little patience, and she is the most annoyed when it comes to grinding and chattering. Do it. Tingxiao gritted his teeth and squeezed out a word, waving at Yaya. You two go outside to guard. You can't enter the house without orders. Yes. Yes. Yi and Yaya agreed and walked out quickly. They also know that the injuries on the crown prince's body are very serious, and he has indeed started to rot, with a particularly unpleasant smell. If not treated as soon as possible, it may really lead to a big mistake. Hiding in this small village is really a helpless move. The chaos of war and chaos makes it difficult to find a good doctor, coupled with the crown prince's constant alternation of low and high fever. Anyone who wants to leave must weigh their options. It takes dozens of miles of mountain roads to get to the county town from here, and there are not even any towns around. In order to conceal their identity, they dare not casually expose any injuries on their bodies. The task was not completed, and the crown prince did not agree to return to the main camp of Liangjun. Finally, some people said they could save their crown prince, but they didn't want to miss the opportunity. As soon as the two guards left, Tingxiao was about to ask Du Wanwan what to do next when she saw her raise her hand and give her a hand. Immediately, her eyes darkened and she fainted to the ground. Very good, simple and rough, not a waste of time at all. Du Wanwan picked up the person and placed them on the bed, closed the door, and with a thought, led them into the space. Find the anesthetic and inject it into Tingxiao. After waiting for a while, seeing that he had lost his reaction, he finally spoke to Yaya with relief. Yaya. I need to perform a surgical suture surgery in the space. Please prepare the surgical instruments I need and send them over. As soon as she finished speaking, a small cart appeared next to Du Wanwan, holding all the things needed for surgery. This is the effect of Du Wanwan and Yaya having the same mindset. As long as she enters the space, she can say whatever she wants and does. Yaya is very intelligent and will prepare everything for her. Thank you. Yaya. Even if she had never seen this Yaya before, in Du Wanwan's heart, she existed. Sometimes, she also feels that Yaya has the ability to predict, otherwise why are the surgical instruments for wound suturing prepared so quickly? She just said, and the small cart came over on its own. What is this not prediction? She had experienced such situations several times in her past life, and she dared to conclude that Yaya could definitely predict things around her. Untying Tingxiao's clothes, the rotten flesh in her abdomen emitted a very unpleasant smell. If it weren't for her wearing a mask, she would probably have been smoked and vomited out. The wound is a bit long, from the left abdomen to the right chest, and the cloth wrapped around the wound is already black and covered with blood and other dirt. Du Wanwan didn't want to put in any more effort to solve it, so she simply took out scissors and cut off all the cloth strips. After the surgery, she had to replace them with clean disinfectant gauze. The flesh of the wound was not only red and swollen, but also purulent. There were small white insects wriggling around the edge, and upon closer inspection, it turned out to be maggots. Suppressing nausea and the numbness and itching in her throat, Du Wanwan took out a bottle of physiological saline and hung it on the patient first, adding anti-inflammatory liquid inside. Use alcohol to clean the dirt on the wound, cut off all the rotten and purulent areas, and clean out all the white maggots. Kill them one by one, pick them up, and throw them into a tray. Throwing it together with the cut meat looks very scary. Surprisingly, maggots grew from human wounds, which was the first time Du Wanwan had seen them. No matter how poor the hygiene and medical conditions of modern people are, they will not fall to this level. Although they often carry out tasks outside and are injured, they are immediately assisted by accompanying doctors. No matter what, it is impossible for the wound to grow worms. After removing all the carrion from the wounds, Du Wanwan carefully examined them until she didn't see any maggots. She then prepared to sew and sew. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Close range fighting, you are not my opponent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Close range fighting, you are not my opponent. The wound was originally a diagonal line, very neat. After cutting off the carrion, the wound became a bit crooked and twisted. Du Wanwan tried to sew the wound as neatly as possible, so that the man wouldn't wake up and get angry when he saw the irregular scar on his chest. After suturing, the wound was bandaged and the condition of the drip bottle was checked before sitting down panting and resting. Yaya. Take away the things. After finishing a sentence, the surgical cart spun its wheels and ran happily. After resting for a moment, Du Wanwan picked up Tingxiao and walked out of the space. She placed him on the bed with her back up, tidied up his clothes, stretched her body, and sat on the side waiting for the medicine to drip. Yaya. Prepare some anti-inflammatory drugs for me and wrap them in paper. Not long after the words fell, she had more than 10 packets of medicine in her hand, all small packets. Opening them, there was a daily dose inside. After taking a look at the white pills, Wanwan felt a bit abrupt. This place is ancient and cannot have such small pills. Yaya. Take it back first. More than 10 packs of medicine in my hand are missing. Fortunately no one saw them, otherwise I would have been scared to death. Things that appear and disappear one moment after another, definitely think they're ghosts. After some thought, Wanwan still felt that the pills could be given to Tingxiao, but she needed to find a reasonable excuse. What excuse are you looking for? Their family will stay in this village for 3 days, and then they will set off to flee for disaster. It's hard to say if I can meet him in the future. What excuse should I find? By the way, she can crush all the medicine for the day melted in water, so that the shape of the medicine cannot be seen. This is a good solution. She had just thought it over and immediately instructed Yaya with her mind. In no time, she had more bottles and jars in her hand, all of which were small glass bottles of oral liquid that had been used up before, some for enhancing physical fitness, some for regulating the body, and some for supplementing calcium, which looked very abrupt. Glass products should not be available in this fictional era, right? What if it arouses suspicion from Tingxiao? What else can we use to pack without these? Anyway, they just stayed together for 3 days, and after that, the road turned upside down, each walking on their own without knowing anyone. Can he still hold her and interrogate the origin of these things? Even if he asks, she won't answer. Prepare the dosage for 3 days, wait for the drip to finish, collect the bottle, charge for the medication, and a successful transaction is completed. Tingxiao is an adult, and Wanwan's drops naturally reach the highest frequency. He has martial arts to protect his body, and the number of drops of medicine is too fast, so it shouldn't cause much damage to him. Watching the last drop of medicine flow into his vein, Wanwan decisively pulled out the needle, took out a cotton swab, and pressed the needle for 2 minutes before removing it. The needle hole did not bleed, so she put away the drip bottle without giving any instructions, and Yaya made it disappear. Opening the door and walking out, Wanwan greeted the door and said, "Come in and watch him. I need to go back. I ran into the house 2 nights a night and saw my own prince lying straight on the bed, and my face immediately became calm." Yi was quite impatient and tried to grab Wanwan's throat, but she dodged him sideways and reached out to grab his shoulder. With one force, Yi felt his entire arm numb and his whole body seemed to be gnawing on by tens of thousands of ants. The pain was unbearable, and he couldn't use any force. He felt a panic in his heart, wanting to gather his internal strength and break free. With his internal strength together, his whole body felt as uncomfortable as a needle, making him unable to resist the pain and groan. "You'd better not move around. I'm a doctor and know how to subdue someone like you with high martial arts skills." Yi's expression was slightly stunned, not knowing where this girl came from and why she could control the most powerful guard around him, the crown prince. Although Yi was also puzzled, he didn't dare to act casually. He only asked in an unhappy tone, "Miss Du, what's wrong with our master? Why has he been sleeping all this time?" Wanwan suddenly pushed Yi away and said, "His numbness hasn't passed yet. It won't be long before he wakes up." "Anesthesia? What kind of medicine is that?" Yi followed closely like a curious baby. Didn't anesthesia appear in the kingdom of Wei?" Wanwan couldn't help but support her forehead, it was her carelessness. "But it doesn't matter, if she comes, the anesthetic from the Great Wei Kingdom will appear. It is a medicine I created myself, which can anesthetize human body tissues, cut and burn without feeling pain." Yi's pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked at Tingxiao on the bed again. He was sleeping soundly, breathing long, and it didn't seem like there was anything wrong with him. The crown prince has not slept well for a long time, and it is also good to have a good night's sleep with the help of anesthesia. When there was a conflict between Yi and Wanwan just now, he checked and found that the wound of the crown prince had already been cleaned. The originally open wound was sewn together with needle and thread. This treatment method is very unique, he has never seen it before. Why did my master's wound get sewn up? Yaya was very surprised and particularly wanted to know Wanwan's answer. Sewing it up is naturally beneficial for the wound to heal again. Wanwan impatiently glanced at Yaya. If you don't sew it up, such a long cut will grow so long that it will never be able to grow well. I might as well tell you the truth, your master has covered his wound too tightly and has already grown maggots. Take good care of him at night, wake up and give him a light diet before taking medication for 2/4 of an hour. 1 bottle at a time, 3 times a day. Wanwan pointed to the pile of small glass bottles of oral liquid and told Yaya, this is the amount for 3 days, all of which are included in the 100 taels of silver. If you want to increase the dosage, the silver will be counted separately. Pushed by Wanwan, Yaya stumbled back to the corner of the wall and glanced at the few glass bottles, his pupils suddenly tightening. How could such an exquisite glass bottle be used to hold medicine? Is this woman foolish? This kind of glass bottle costs over 10 taels of silver in Liang County. She is ignorant of goods and uses it to fill medicine for the crown prince, which is a waste of time. Wanwan. Mom made a fortune. Her family has collected thousands of small glass bottles of this oral liquid. There are various styles available, including white, brown, blue, yellow, and countless others. 10 taels of silver each. If she sells all of it, she won't score any points and become a rich woman in seconds. I understand. Thank you very much, Miss Du, for your help. Here is a promise of 100 taels of silver for you. Yaya is the butler next to the crown prince, and he has to comply with what the crown prince has promised. Miss Du has already treated the crown prince, and the medicine has been prescribed. Therefore, the medical fee that should be paid cannot be ignored. Taking the silver note, Wanwan stuffed it into her sleeve and actually handed it over to Yaya to collect. I will stay in the village for 3 days. If there is any problem, you can come to my house at any time. Her gaze fell on Yaya, and Wanwan warned, don't provoke me if you have nothing to do. I have innate divine power and also know the distribution of acupoints. Even if you have high martial arts skills and engage in close combat, you are not my opponent. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Being looked down upon in person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Being looked down upon in person. Being looked down upon in person. In the past, Yaya promised not to be convinced and rushed up to fight with others again. After learning Wanwan's methods today, he knew in his heart that she didn't lie. This girl is very evil, she is really not her match. Even if he stood out among the guards, he wouldn't be able to see enough under the hands of this girl. I don't know what kind of martial arts she was using, so I grabbed my wrist and felt numb all over. It's really strange that even internal strength cannot be concentrated. It's not that he's too bad, but that the girl is too strong. Affected by Wanwan's move, Yaya's face turned pale and he swore never to confront her again. Wanwan, who had received the silver ticket, didn't care what Yaya thought and leisurely returned home under the moonlight. In ancient times, people had little entertainment at night and went to bed after eating. When she came back, everyone in the family had already gone to bed. She walked to her bed in the dark and climbed up lightly. Even though the bed was hard and the blanket was not warm enough, she still fell asleep quickly. The good habits developed in her past life, no matter how difficult the conditions are, she is not picky about eating or sleeping. Tingxiao slept until dawn and woke up. He opened his eyes and stayed in front of his bed for 2 nights. The two of them sat back to back dozing off. Knowing that they were working hard, Tingxiao didn't make any sound. Instead, he reached out to touch the wound, feeling it was wrapped in gauze and still tense. What's going on? The wound doesn't hurt much anymore, and he hasn't started to heat up. After getting enough sleep, I feel refreshed and refreshed. Yaya's heart was quite attentive. Upon hearing a slight sound, she immediately opened her eyes and saw Tingxiao wake up, feeling extremely happy in her heart. "Sir, how do you feel?" Upon hearing Yi's voice, Yi also woke up and asked, "Are you hungry? I'll go make some porridge." Tingxiao slowly sat up and looked at his two subordinates. "Where is she?" "I'm going back." Yi pointed to the bottles of medicine on the table. "Miss Du said that I must eat something before I can drink the medicine when I wake up. 1 bottle at a time, 3 times a day." Turning his head, he looked at the small glass bottle of oral liquid, which was very blue and beautiful, with half a bottle of cloudy medicine inside. Glass bottle. How could she have such exquisite things? Yaya, who was washing the pot outside and preparing to cook porridge, asked with concern, "Sir, do you feel better than before?" "It's much better." Tingxiao reached out to grab the small bottle and glanced at the two subordinates. "I hope you keep your mouth shut about Miss Du, that woman is too special. Her medical skills are really good. The wound that had tormented him so much that it was more difficult to live than to die now, except for a slight pain, there is no discomfort anymore. After a few days of cultivation, they can leave here to carry out unfinished tasks. He is the Prince of Pingyang, who is guarding Liangjun. Liangjun's geographical location is very special, located at a critical point of the three kingdoms. The north is the second natural defense against the northern frontier, while the south is the first natural defense against southern Xinjiang. Nowadays, the world is divided into 5 parts. Northern Juezi, southern Xinjiang, Shillong, Dawei, and Dongchen. The Great Wei Kingdom was in the center, and the surrounding 4 countries were watching closely. His father, the Marquis of Pingyang, received a secret report that northern Juezi intended to join forces with the people of southern Xinjiang to divide Liang County, De County, and Baochuan County. As long as we capture Liang County, the following counties and continents will surely be captured. His task is to sabotage the successful meeting between the northern and southern Xinjiang people, playing a role in stirring up discord and mutual distrust among them. I had just achieved it twice, but on the 3rd attempt I was spotted by the people of southern Xinjiang. I led them to pursue them, and the more than 150 guards who followed me almost completely annihilated, leaving only 1 night and 2 nights. They had no choice but to huddle in this small mountain village, hoping to heal their wounds and then complete the unfinished tasks. The wound is too deep and too long, it doesn't heal for a while. I didn't expect to meet Miss Du, and I don't know what medicine she used. His wound is obviously not so uncomfortable anymore. The fever symptoms on his body have also been alleviated a lot. It's great, he can't die anymore. Yes. Yi bowed and answered. Yi pretended not to hear, and that woman was ashamed to him. He wouldn't bring this up to anyone, it's too embarrassing. After cooking congee, Tingxiao ate a bowl and took a bottle of medicine 2/4 of an hour later. He felt his eyelids heavy and fell asleep again. Yi sniffed his breath and felt that the crown prince's breath was steady, so he felt relieved. Wanwan woke up in the morning and wandered around the house. Her 3 younger brothers were all busy with their own tasks, but she didn't know what to do. In my memory, the original owner was someone who didn't like to talk or move much. There were parents and younger brothers involved in matters both at home and outside the house. At most, she would go outside and bring some grass back to feed the chickens. Now that the chickens are fleeing the famine, they have been taken away by the Mei, Chen, and Xiao families, and she no longer needs to pull grass to feed them. Why not go to various households in the village and see if there is anything left behind? If it can still be used, put it in the space. After walking around, I didn't come across anything. Every household was tidied up cleaner than when thieves came to visit. I don't know how they can still rush on with so many things on their backs. If they encounter northern bandits, can they escape? Fortunately, she had Yaya. As soon as she started on the road, she asked Yaya to collect all the food in the car. Pushing such a heavy car would definitely make it difficult to walk quickly. Encountering refugees and bandits, those grains cannot be preserved. It's better to entrust them to Yaya for safekeeping. Having nothing to do, Wanwan came to see Tingxiao and saw him sleeping. She checked his pulse and gave him a few instructions. Last night, I was busy sewing, but I didn't take a closer look. Today, I couldn't help but take a cold glance and feel that this man's facial features are really good. If it weren't for suffering from pain and suffering, thin and pale, and plump, women would probably not be as beautiful as him. How did a man grow a woman's face? In her past life, she was accustomed to the roughness of her comrades, and suddenly saw this ancient fair-skinned and beautiful man, feeling a bit dazed. You can't take this medicine too much. Take only 3 bottles a day. Eating too much can cause discomfort. If it doesn't start burning after 3 days, then it's okay. If it still starts burning, the medicine can't stop. Remember. Yaya replied respectfully. Yaya stood on the side, head down, feeling uneasy all over, feeling ashamed to be defeated by a young girl. But there's no other way, who makes him less skilled than others. We will leave early the day after tomorrow. If you want to buy medicine, you must speak up early. Buy. Buy for 3 more days. Tingxiao woke up at some point and spoke hoarsely, Miss Du, could you please go back and prepare to deliver it? Is 100 taels of silver enough? Enough. Wanwan, who spoke concisely, glanced at him and got up to leave. It goes without saying that everyone knows that she has gone home to prepare medicine. Why don't you earn money? Money without earning is a fool, she is not a fool. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Gift of Bamboo Plaques. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Gift of Bamboo Plaques. Medication is very simple, she doesn't even need to explain, Yaya has already prepared it for her. I just have to wait until tomorrow to deliver it to them. It was delivered too early for fear of arousing suspicion from the young master. Where did anyone dispense medicine so quickly? Isn't it fooling people? Come back every other day and a half, and the timing is more reasonable. What if she just has nothing to do? My parents and younger brother seem to treat her like a treasure and don't ask her to do anything. She had no sense of presence. When she returned home, her mother Yao Meixian had already prepared her meal. When her 3 younger brothers saw her return, they quickly put down their work, washed their hands, and prepared to eat. The younger brother Du Wenjun is 15 years old, about 1.7 meters tall and thin, with messy and fluffy hair that is withered and yellow. My second younger brother Du Wanwan is 13 years old and 1.5 meters tall. He is a bit short and bumpy, neither thin nor fat. His facial features follow their mother Yao Meixian's appearance. The third younger brother Du Wenhua is 11 years old, about 1.2 meters old, and also thin and haggard. Her facial features are a bit similar to hers, all following their father. Du Wanwan looked carefully at the original owner's father when she had nothing to do, and found that he was actually quite good looking. He worked hard all year round, and coupled with not having enough to eat, he looked quite old. If taken care of carefully, he should be a middle-aged and beautiful uncle. In her past life, she was alone and had no parents or brothers. When she came here, she suddenly gained so many relatives that she didn't get used to it. Fortunately, the original owner didn't say much before, which perfectly matched her character. If the original owner was a talkative person, that would be terrible. The family would definitely see that she was not the original owner. We are about to flee, and combined with the village's customs, our family only eats 2 meals a day. Du Wanwan is not used to it and cannot casually express it. Fortunately, there is food in her space, and when she is hungry, Yaya will bring her delicious food. The next day, she gave the prepared medicine to Tingxiao and received 100 taels of silver. Du Wanwan was in a great mood. Miss Du, where are you going to escape from famine? I don't know. Tingxiao's question was simply strange. She was just a little girl, how did she know where to go? Do you have any good suggestions, young master? Let's go to Liangjun. Tingxiao said, taking out a small green bamboo plaque from her sleeve and handing it over. When we get there, if the gatekeeper doesn't let you in, show him this and ensure that your family can settle in Liangjun, Liang County. Du Wanwan took the bamboo plaque and looked at it. It was made of bamboo, 1 finger long and 2 fingers wide, with a pattern engraved on the front without any words. There are characters on the reverse side, the traditional one is missing. The bamboo plaque was painted green and tied with a red thread, carrying the temperature of the man's body. Why do you kindly help me? Plot my medical skills. Cough cough. As someone saw through his thoughts, Tingxiao raised his fist and lip, pretending to cough to cover it up. Miss, it's not a bad thing to say that. Are you from Liangjun? Du Wanwan looked at Tingxiao and furrowed her brows lightly. The people of Liangjun are living in our village, so there must be some unknown secret. I thought she would say something shocking next, but she stopped and turned around to leave. Arriving at the door, I suddenly turned around and looked at Tingxiao. I advise you to use force for your injuries. Once the wound cracks, it will be very troublesome. How long will it take to fully recover? Tingxiao asked calmly. At least 10 days. Thank you very much. Remember. Du Wanwan was stunned for a moment, didn't say much, and turned around to leave. At first glance, this person is not an ordinary person, with a dignified and upright demeanor. Even though he came here, he was injured so badly, which must be related to the war caused by the northern invasion. Forget it, it's all men's business, she doesn't need to worry. What she needs to worry about now is how to safely and quickly lead her family out of here and find a good place by the mountains and rivers to settle down again. She hasn't decided whether to go to Liangjun yet, it depends on whether that place is suitable for survival. 3 days have passed, and the Du family is preparing to set off for famine relief. Du Wanwan asked her younger brother Du Wenjun for a set of men's short haircuts, and her hair was tied up in the shape of a man, which made the whole family very suspicious. Yao Meixian pulled her daughter to look left and right, puzzled. Wanwan. Why do you want to turn yourself into a boy? Du Jiang glanced and gave the answer. It's convenient for boys to walk outside. The 3 younger brothers had a sudden realization on their faces, didn't say much, just looked at her curiously. Du Wanwan gave her father a thumbs up and praised, Dad is right. Before we leave, let's explain that I'm not called Du Wanwan outside, but Du Dalong. After speaking, I was stunned for a moment and inexplicably remembered that classic line. Dalang. It's time to take the medicine. Yao Meixian nodded and said, Mom, remember, your name is Du Dalong, and your name is Du Wanwan. The 3 younger brothers stood side by side, nodding together and saying in unison, we all remember. Okay. Du Wanwan praised them once, smart. From now on, the matter of pushing the cart belongs to me. I have a lot of strength. Dad can't walk anymore, so take the cart. Mom and you take care of each other's things, except for necessities, don't bring anything else if you can. Yao Meixian looked at her daughter and asked with difficulty, Wanwan, what is a necessity? Grain, clothes, quilts, cooking tools, such as tables, chairs, and benches, just throw them away. When you're out, you don't need them for a while. It's burdensome. Du Jiang waved his hand and said, everyone listens to Wanwan. Yao Meixian and her 3 younger brothers quickly removed the broken benches and tables that had been put on the car, and reluctantly piled them aside. Du Wenjun couldn't bear it anymore. Taking advantage of the gap between Du Wanwan's face and the ashes, he picked up a small horse that had been sitting from small to large and put it back on the car. Du Wenguan saw what he wanted to say, but he covered his mouth. Du Wenhua originally wanted to say, but he stared at him and dared not speak. Du Wanwan has a carefree personality. It's better for her to play the role of a well-behaved and clever girl than to dress up as a man. They have a family of 5, all 4 of whom are men, and only one of them is a woman. Even if someone wants to have an idea for them, they have to weigh it carefully. Organize your things and prepare to set off. Dad. Where did the village chief and his team originally plan to flee to? Beijing. The capital. That's too far away. Should we go or not? Asked Du Wanwan. No, I won't go. Du Jiang answered decisively, since we're separated from them, there's no need to entangle ourselves. Anyway, we'll run away, where we go is where we go. With her father's words, Du Wanwan had a clear idea in her heart. She lifted her hand and gently pushed the car, allowing Du Jiang to sit on it. Du Jiang stubbornly refused, just push the grain, Dad won't sit, you can leave. Yao Meixian had never seen her daughter push the cart before, fearing that she might not be able to push it steadily. She hurriedly followed along and helped her. It seems that with her support, my daughter can push steadily. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Women disguise as men to escape from wilderness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Women disguise as men to escape from wilderness. I know my daughter is strong, but I didn't expect her to be so strong. It's not difficult to push a car at all. Fortunately, men dress up, and if a girl makes such a move, she won't scare people to death. Her family's Wanwan really has a chance, she's even more powerful than a mother like her. She knew that her daughter was not a disaster star, but a lucky star. As soon as they walked out of the house, Tingxiao and Yaya stood at their doorstep, paying their respects. Watching Du Wanwan dressed in men's clothing, Yaya couldn't help but exclaim, Miss Du is really a visionary person. When we go here, there are good and bad people, and the man's body is more convenient than his daughter's house. Tingxiao didn't speak, just watched quietly. Today, when he woke up, he no longer had a fever and his wound was dry and no longer bleeding or purulent. It's just a bit numb and itchy, he knows, this is Changxin meat. The medical skills of women are truly unheard of in the world. If such a person goes to Liangjun, it is a blessing for the people of Liangjun, as well as for the 50,000 soldiers of their night army. Suturing a person's wound can also develop an anesthetic that doesn't hurt even when cutting or burning. If used on soldiers, it would save many lives. After another 3 days of rest, they also have to leave this place and go on a mission. I don't know if they will see her again in the future. Du Wanwan's pushing skills were very good, and Yao Meixian felt that following her was unnecessary. She slowly fell behind and walked beside Du Jiang. Afraid of encountering inconvenient obstacles, she could lend a hand to assist him. The grain on the car has been ordered to be collected into the space, and the baskets on the car are empty. The oilcloth has not been opened, so it is impossible to see. Du Wanwan is pushing an overhead car. The reason why she rushed for the cart was also to save some energy for her family. Dad has inconvenient legs and feet, so he definitely can't bear the long journey and has to take a car. The original owner's strength is indeed great, but no matter how strong it is, it cannot withstand prolonged consumption. Fortunately, there was a spiritual spring in her space, which had already been added to the water everyone drank. I hope they can enhance their physical fitness to prevent fatigue and exhaustion. After walking for a whole day, there was no one on the road. There was no village in front and no shops at the back. I walked until sunset and didn't see anyone. I found a place with a leeward side, and the family started living and cooking. In the morning, my family ate what we had set out for, and at noon, I took a few bites of dry food. If I didn't eat again at night, my body couldn't bear it. Yao Meixian was responsible for cooking, while Du Wanwan wanted to help, but she pushed her aside to rest. Dalong, you've worked hard pushing the cart. Mom can cook. Big brother Du Wenjun quickly poured her a bowl of water and said, Brother. Drink water. My second brother Du Wenguan gave her a handkerchief and said, brother. Wipe your face. The third younger brother ran over and sat next to her, his eyes full of admiration. Brother. You're amazing. Du Jiang looked at the four children with satisfaction and smiled. Your big brother has been different from others since he was young, and he will definitely receive good fortune in the future. Du Wanwan looked at this, looked at that, and felt that her parents and younger brothers had adapted quite quickly. She closed her mouth and didn't treat her like a daughter, which was very good. The family had dinner in the dark, lying on the ground in unison, ready to sleep. After rushing all day, everyone was feeling tired, but Du Jiang kept sitting, leaning against the car to take a nap, afraid that someone might come and steal the food on the car. Du Wanwan deliberately told him not to guard, but was afraid that he would notice any clues, so she didn't remind him and asked him to guard. In the second half of the night, she got up to exchange with Du Jiang, but he insisted on pushing her away. Wanwan. You are a girl who doesn't have a good rest. You may not be in the mood to go on your way tomorrow. Go to bed quickly, and come to watch the night from now on. Unable to control his temper, Du Wanwan gave up her persistence and decided to let her father rest in the car tomorrow. The next day at dawn, the whole family got up and cooked rice, as well as dry food for lunch, and continued on their journey. Dad. You were tired from staying up late last night. Today, I'll push you away. Come on, get in the car, otherwise my son will carry you up. A flying car, sitting on Du Jiang doesn't weigh much, and Du Wanwan doesn't need much effort to push it. I heard that my father was on a night watch last night. Du Wenjun, Du Wenguan, and Du Wenhua were all very self-blaming. Why did they forget to keep a night watch? Dad. Listen to Big Brother, take the car. I and my second brother will come to watch the night. Dad. Don't be embarrassed, I'm very strong. Yao Meixian also advised, Xianggong. Your legs are inconvenient and you cannot walk with us for a long time. Your sons are filial, so sit up and rest. Du Jiang couldn't resist it, but in the end he got on the cart. His injured leg was indeed a bit weak, and the pain was unbearable. The family tidied up and set off facing the sunrise. After walking all day, they only saw a large group of people rushing ahead in the evening, looking like a village. There must be at least 200 or 300 people, and at the back of the team is a carriage, following the people in front not far or near. Du Wanwan pushed the car very fast, and Du Jiang dared not get off the car even after saying it several times. His daughter seemed to be deliberately walking briskly, and he couldn't even jump off the car. As soon as he made a move, Du Wanwan threatened him, Dad. Don't move around, jumping down will cause an accident. Upon hearing her say this, he became afraid and had already injured one leg. If he injured another leg, he would have to drag his wife and children to death. So, he tried several times but didn't get off the car and sat on the scooter all the time. Dad. There are people ahead, please take a look. Where are they from? Can we fall behind them and walk? Shifting his attention, Du Jiang stretched his neck and looked around for a while, but couldn't tell which village it belonged to. No wonder, he lived for over 30 years and has been in the village without ever leaving. The farthest place is in town, where do you know anyone? Du Wanwan's feet were fast, and she soon caught up with these people, but she didn't dare to approach and followed from a distance. They fled not because of the disaster, but because of the military disaster, so the people who came out were basically carrying food from every household. Some people carry it while others push it, and the journey naturally slows down. Dad. Let's rest behind them tonight and leave early tomorrow morning. Hey. Dad, listen to you. I don't know why, Du Jiang never doubted his daughter's words. She said whatever she said. He knew his daughter had some skills, but the couple didn't dare to expose her for fear of being disliked. On the day he broke his leg, if it weren't for his daughter following her, he might have died a long time ago. That day he went into the mountain to chop firewood, and the old woman carried her daughter on her back with her. Unexpectedly, she met a wild boar. He was afraid and climbed up the tree. The wild boar was angry and collided with the tree trunk. He couldn't hold it firmly and fell down, breaking his leg. My daughter rushed over and used her small body to block him and his wife, pointing at the big head of the wild boar and shouting in a milky voice, "Go away. Don't come and harm my parents. Hurry up, my parents didn't hurt you, why hurt them?" End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 7 Sisters Flower Ant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. 7 Sisters Flower Ant. At that time, his heart was so scared that it jumped down his throat. A 2-year-old girl faced a big wild boar weighing 300 to 400 pounds, not only not afraid, but also made accusations. "How funny it looks, that's a wild boar, a beast, how could it possibly listen to my daughter? If the wild boar heads forward, her daughter will definitely be in danger. Isn't it a luxury to expect wild boars to understand human language? Children are innocent." Strangely, the wild boar raised its little eyes to look at its daughter, lowered its head, and really turned around and retreated. In this scene, he and his wife were stunned, especially when he couldn't even feel the pain in his leg. Looking at her 2-year-old daughter with a good eye, a soft and fluffy little girl was not afraid to see a wild boar and could even drive it away. Saving his and his wife's lives, this is not a disaster star, it is clearly a lucky star. But the more fortunate a person is, the more hardships they will suffer. He firmly believes that as long as they follow their daughter, their family will turn bad luck into good and turn danger into safety this time. Yao Meixian looked at the person in front and felt that it was right to listen to her daughter. Tonight, the sky is getting dark. Follow them for a night and make plans tomorrow morning. As soon as the person in front stopped, Wanwan also stopped, and the carriage behind gradually came to a stop. A pregnant woman got off the carriage, looking like she was about to give birth. A pregnant woman in her 20s is dressed in silk and satin, with a golden hairpin inserted at her temples. The maids around her are also dressed well, indicating that she comes from a wealthy family. An uncle driving a car, a servant, and a grandmother getting off the car were busy greeting the servant to cook with her. Wanwan pushed the car, looked around, and stopped at a place near the mountains and forests on the roadside, calling on her parents and younger brothers to set up a stove to prepare dinner. They are a bit far away from the people in that village, half a mile away. They are afraid that if they get too close, they will be unhappy and say that their family has been exposed to the glory of the villagers. Another reason is that they are too close to each other, fearing that they may be swayed by the crowd. They only have a family of 6, and they are the whole village. If they are targeted by malicious intent, they will definitely suffer. Stay away. If there's really anything inappropriate, there's also a buffer time for them to prepare. Wanwan is only responsible for exerting her strength and secretly filling the water tank with spiritual spring water. She is afraid to take out food and other items, as there are ones in the car. Jiang is responsible for guarding the food on the car, Yao Meixian is responsible for cooking, the third brother Wanhua is responsible for picking up firewood, and the second brother Wanguan is responsible for setting fire. The younger brother Wenjun is responsible for searching for water sources, and when he finds them, he brings some back and pours them into the water tank. The water tank is on the car, and every time Wanwan asks Yaya to replace the water in the tank with that in the small stream of the space, and add some spiritual spring. Dinner was made with vegetable dumplings and pancakes. I had to hurry all day, but I had to have a strong meal, otherwise I wouldn't be able to withstand hunger on the way tomorrow. The cooking pot was under a big tree, and Wanwan sat on the side to take a breath. Suddenly, a rapid bird cry could be heard in her ears. "Mother! Mother! How are you doing?" "Seventh sister. Mom is fine. You can run for your own life. Don't worry about Mom." "How can we do that? Dad and 6 brothers and sister-in-law are all gone, how can 7th sister leave her mother behind? Mother's wings have been injured, so she probably won't be able to survive. No, Mom. You will get better. Wanwan looked up and found two crows parked on a tree not far from her, one larger and the other smaller. Seventh sister. Take your mother down, I can cure her. Two crows on the tree were startled, especially seventh sister. She trembled and stood next to her mother, asking, Mother. How can this human understand our words? She said she can cure her, can we believe it? He doesn't seem like a bad person, seventh sister. You carry your mother on your back and it doesn't matter if you can cure her. Mother is no longer useful. Mom. Don't say such things, seventh sister wants to cry. Hurry up and come down, I can cure your mother. Wanwan waved at the two crows, don't worry. I don't eat crow meat. It's not a big portion, it's troublesome. It's tiring to open the stomach and pluck hair. Chimay tilted her head, her small eyes twirling, hesitated for a moment, and then flew to Wanwan's feet behind her mother's back. Reaching out to pick up seven sisters' mother, I checked her wings and found that she had been bitten by something, and her bones were broken. The drooping, bright red blood-stained feathers are all sticky and greasy. Seventh sister. Your mother's wings need to rest well and cannot fly anymore. Yaya in the space enthusiastically gave her a small bottle of Lingquan, which was filled with oral liquid. Wanwan picked it up and drizzled it on the injured area of the crow, and let the rest be drunk by Chimay's mother. It didn't hesitate and drank it one by one. After finishing, it couldn't help but sigh, what kind of water is this? It's really delicious. Chimay moved her bird's beak and watched as Wanwan slowly healed her mother's wound. Actually, there wasn't much treatment, I just sprinkled some anti-inflammatory drugs and found a cloth strip to tie it up. She is not a veterinarian, and it is unknown whether her bones can grow well. Just do your best and listen to fate. Wanwan sat far away from her family, everyone was busy with their own tasks, and no one saw what she was doing. Organize it, Wanwan will return the seventh sister's mother to it. Alright, we can't fly for now, we need to take care of it. Chimay's mother looked at Wanwan and pleaded, my name is Aunt Hua. Chimay is my youngest child, and my men, 6 sons, and 6 daughters-in-law are all gone. Can you be a good person and help us to the end? I don't care, it's just that we're going to flee and we're not sure where we'll go. Are you two really willing to follow? Willing. Aunt Hua nodded her little head. Chimay quickly answered in a low voice, I am willing too. Okay, you guys stay and follow me. Wanwan thought to herself, since she had never kept a pet in her past life, it shouldn't be difficult to keep 2 crows. Just keep them and it will be easy to relax on the road. Yaya seemed very happy and immediately gave Wanwan millet, beans, and wheat, all foods that birds could eat. Sorry, the child hasn't eaten for a long time. When she sees the food, her eyes light up, said Aunt Hua apologetically, it's okay, these are the things I'll give you to eat. You're welcome, let's eat. Really? Seventh sister jumped up happily and tilted her head to look at Wanwan. Can I taste everything? It's been a long time since I saw anything delicious. Sure. Wanwan picked 3 leaves, filled them with some millet, soybeans, and wheat, and pushed them to Chimay. Eat it. You're welcome. As long as you're willing to follow me, you'll have anything you want to eat in the future. Thank you. Aunt Hua bowed to Wanwan, then lowered her head and ate elegantly. Chimay, however, was different. She kept pecking with her small mouth and wolfing down food. After a while, she choked and stretched her neck, her bird's eyes turned white, and her whole body fell forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The encounter of crows is similar to people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The encounter of crows is similar to people. That scene, no matter how funny it was, Wanwan couldn't help but try to hold it back. Yaya timely gave a small glass bottle of water, and Chimay quickly took a sip, finally coming along smoothly. Aunt Hua looked at her daughter and scolded her, "You child, why are you so greedy? Eat slowly, the food given by your benefactor cannot be wasted." Chimay lowered her head, feeling a bit embarrassed. Seeing that Du Wanwan didn't laugh at it, she pecked at Xiaomi on the leaves one by one. "Big brother. It's time for dinner." In the distance, Du Wenguan, the second younger brother, was shouting. Du Wanwan agreed and stood up, "Seventh sister. Aunt Hua. I'll go eat first, and when you finish eating, come and find me." "Okay. Thank you, benefactor." Aunt Hua said elegantly to Du Wanwan, indicating that this Aunt Hua should have a certain status in the crow world, otherwise her movements would not always give people a visual impact of elegance to the extreme. Chimay also said, "Thank you, benefactor." "You are welcome." After finishing speaking, Du Wanwan walked towards her family. The sky had already darkened, and next to the pregnant woman's carriage, there was a kind-looking old man holding food in his hand and handing it to the nearby maid. The pregnant woman didn't know what she had said to the old man, and the old man walked away with a bitter face, shaking his head in head. When going out, Du Wanwan is not idle gossiping. In fact, she is not someone who loves gossiping. He left early tomorrow morning, who cares about so much of his business? Aunt Hua and seventh sister finished eating the food on the leaves and came to find Du Wanwan. Aunt Hua couldn't fly, only seventh sister flew over on her back. Chi Mei was thin and struggled to carry her back. Du Wanwan reached out to catch her, and the three brothers, Du Wenjun, Du Wenguan, and Du Wenhua, were all amazed. "Big brother. Is this the bird you caught?" Du Wenhua was the youngest and talked the most. "This is a crow. How did you catch it? Can you keep it for me?" Upon hearing his words, Chimay trembled with fear and quickly jumped onto Du Wanwan's shoulder, shouting, "No, no, no." Aunt Hua raised her head to look at seventh sister and warned, "Shut up, our benefactor won't send us out." Du Wanwan naturally wouldn't hand over these two crows to her younger brother. She was just treating Aunt Hua and had no intention of taking them as her own. "No way. They are just temporarily with me. When Aunt Hua's injury is healed, she will leave with seventh sister." Du Wanwan's words surprised the three brothers even more. How could Big Brother even choose a good name? Aunt Hua. 7 younger sisters. It sounds like 2 mother birds. Du Jiang knew that his daughter understood animal language, but he didn't say it. The 3 sons in the family didn't know, and now they are fleeing the wilderness and the environment is harsh, so he dare not say it anymore. Yao Meixian also knew about her daughter's unusual qualities and kept her mouth shut. Big brother. Why did Aunt Hua get hurt? Did someone beat them? Are they from the north? Du Wenguan has a deep hatred towards the northern wanderers. If it weren't for them, how could the villagers blame his sister for the famine escape? How could you say she's a disaster star and want to kill her? They were also driven out of Dujia village, and even the names on the genealogy were crossed out, all caused by the despicable northern Yaozi. If there is a chance, he must kill them. Aunt Hua couldn't help but explain when her benefactor's younger brother asked, "It's not a northern snake, it's a big snake that emerged from somewhere unknown. A large snake came up from the big tree where our crow tribe lived, and it devoured our people. Chimay's father is the clan leader. In order to stop the snake, he confronted it with 6 sons. Chimay continued sadly, Dad and my brothers were all eaten by the snake. My sister-in-law were heartbroken and fought against the snake, but in the end, they were all eaten by it. My mother flew onto the snake's head trying to peck its eyes, but failed and almost got bitten by it. The people of the tribe died, injured, and each fled for their own lives." After listening to their words, Du Wanwan vividly told the story of the Crow clan fighting against the big snake. The 3 brothers, Du Wenjun, Du Wenguan, and Du Wenhua, remained silent for a long time. After a moment, Du Wenjun spoke weakly and said, I didn't expect the situation of the Crow clan to be quite similar to ours. The northern swallow is the snake, and we are the weak crows. Du Wenguan said, yes, humans and animals also have similar experiences. Du Wenhua remained silent and looked sympathetically at Aunt Hua and seventh sister. Du Wanwan, however, optimistically told her younger brothers, actually, humans and animals have similarities and differences. The Crow tribe suffers because of their small strength, which cannot defeat snakes. We humans are different. We know how to create, ambush, and strategize. Today we can't beat the northern tribes. Maybe in a few days, we'll fight back. Aunt Hua first agrees with Du Wanwan's point of view. The benefactor's analysis is very accurate. No matter how much the damage is caused by the same species of dispute, there is no different species coming quickly or quickly. My man and 6 sons, that despicable snake swallowed it in 2 bites. Chimei remained silent and sobbed as she huddled on Du Wanwan's shoulder, clearly frightened by the brutal war at the time. Reaching out and grabbing Chimei down, holding her in the palm of her hand, she comforted her along its fur and said, don't be afraid, it's all over now. From now on, you will live with us, and no one will dare to harm you again. 7 younger sisters muttered and rubbed the bird's head against Du Wanwan's thumb, as if seeking comfort. The 3 brothers were all dumbfounded, feeling that this little crow had become a fairy, surprisingly being so good to their big brother. Du Wenhua was still the first to ask, brother. Can birds understand what you're saying? Can they also understand what I'm saying? Of course I can. If you don't believe it, you can give it a try. Really? Du Wenguan became excited and asked Chimei, who gave you your name? My brother. Chimei lifted her small eyeballs and looked at Du Wenguan, shook her little head, and then looked at her own mother. After a series of operations, even the most foolish person knows who took her name. Du Wenjun saw the crow so smart for the first time and asked a question. How long do you plan to follow us? Chimei was stopped by the question, spinning her little eyes around and looking around, but in the end, she still chattered and didn't understand a word from Du Wenjun. Du Wanwan understood, but she didn't want to tell Du Wenjun, afraid that her younger brothers wouldn't be able to hide things. At the age of 15 or 16, it is the time for a second illness offender. When someone provokes and gets angry, they may reveal their cards to others. Aunt Hua leaned against Du Wanwan's leg, huddled up in a ball, clearly tired and needed to rest. Let's all go to bed. We're still on our way tomorrow morning. Du Wanwan beckoned her brothers to tidy up their sleeping area, while she stood up and came to Du Zhang's side. Dad. You go to bed first, I'll be on duty. Deeper and more severe, your injured leg may not be able to bear it. I am young, strong, and in good health, I am not afraid of these things. End of this chapter.